Hello everybody, I'm going to be showing you how using, just a second, let me enable screencasting. Alright, so I'm going to be showing you how in Blender we'll make a mine and we'll export it into Unreal Engine 4. Okay, so Blender render, but this doesn't really matter, but for the sake of it I'm using Blender render. So we'll do this, and now we have to create a plane because the base of the mine is square. So we'll do that, and we'll head into edit mode, and we'll extrude this upwards a bit by clicking E and moving the mouse up until, like, this is a good base. Alright, so now, now what we're going to do is, after taking this, we're going to add a modifier to make these edges less sharp and a bit, like, smoothed out. And this modifier we're going to be using is called Subdivision Surface. So immediately, as you can see, this isn't the result we want. So what we're going to do is we'll use something called a loop cut, and you click once and then you drag it near any edge like this, and you can see that this is kind of a bit better. It's hard to understand, like, see right now, but just give it a second. So then we'll do this multiple times for each edge. Okay, and you can do it for the vertical edges if you want, but it's not that big of a deal, so I'm just gonna leave it. And yeah, so now if we head back to object mode and hit apply, head back to edit mode, we can see that there's a lot of vertices, and a lot of these vertices are really unnecessary. Like all of these vertices over here, those are pretty much useless. So what we're gonna do is we're going to do something called a decimate modifier, which will basically reduce, actually, it's not necessary. What we can do instead is just simply select all of these vertices in this box area. I don't know how to describe it. And what we can do is something, oops. Basically, what we can do is something called dissolving the faces or vertices. In this case, we'll be dissolving the vertices. So, as it says over here, or we can do dissolve edges. And as you can see, that's a bit better. Right? Okay, so now if I head back to vertices mode, we have much less stuff to worry about in this area, because we don't need it to be all that precise. So I'll just do the same for every single side. This is interesting to watch, definitely. And dissolve the edges, and yeah. So for these sides, you can do it, but I don't feel like it. And since I didn't add the loop edge, these sides do actually have a little bit of different, they're a bit different in terms of height. It's hard to notice, but they are, because I didn't add the loop cut. So yeah. Alright, so these, for certain workflows, these triangles might be a problem if you're planning on using the sculpt tool, but we aren't planning on doing that, so it's not that big of a deal. Alright, so now we'll head back into object mode, and our base looks good. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add that circle thing on the top. You'll see what I mean when I... Oops, okay. So let me do just one thing. I just want to put my cursor over there. Okay, so that way the sphere will spawn in the center. And so here's a sphere. We'll scale it down just a bit and move it a bit up. Something like this looks good. Ignore the bottom part for now. We'll fix that in a second. Actually, I'll scale it a bit more. And yeah, this looks good, right? Okay, so now what we do is we'll select our box again, and we'll click something, do something called a boolean. And with the second thing, we'll select the sphere. So now what it's doing is, if I make the sphere invisible, it's only taking the part which is intersecting with the sphere. We can change that to difference, where it's just subtracting the sphere. Or union, which is what we're going to do, which is basically just adding the sphere on top of it. So now if we hit apply, and if we move the sphere, we can see that it's part of the mesh as well. So we can delete this, and yeah. Sorry. So now what we're going to do is we're going to get rid of the bottom area. And the way we're going to do that is, once again, we'll take a plane, head to edit mode, extrude it all the way down so it encompasses the entire area. And just because we don't want it to remove the base, what we're going to do is, going back into object mode, move it just ever so slightly down, as little as possible. And once again, we'll head over to Boolean, and this time we'll select the plane, and we'll choose difference, and we'll hit apply. So now if we get rid of this, as you can see, there's no sphere. There's a little bit left, but that's not that big of a deal, because your mines are going to be on the ground anyway, and it adds a little nice bit of detail. So this is our basic mine. Obviously, you can still add a little bit of like detail and stuff, but this is good enough for us, okay? So next what we're going to do is we'll split the view, and we'll go to UV and image editor. So we have this. Oh, and by the way, make sure you save. So let me just call this mine tutorial, and that is good. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we'll have to head back to object mode for this. Sorry. Okay. And we'll select everything, and we'll hit U. We see these multiple things. So for our case, we'll do smart UV project, and this is all fine. As you can see, this is what we get. So this might look a bit confusing first time around, but don't worry too much, it's not actually as bad as it looks. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to take this part, but actually this UV unwrap isn't the best, so we'll see if we can change that. Alright. Okay, so this looks a bit better. And margin. I'm gonna add a little bit of a margin between the different islands, just so we can easily color them in later, which when you see what that means, you'll understand a bit later. So we have these. So basically what we have are these, which let me see if I can set that thing where it'll also select on the object. Let's see, where is it? I have no clue. Shared location? No. Proportional editing? No. Alright, fine, whatever. But basically these curved ones, those are the ones we're going to want to mess around with. As in, not necessarily mess around per se, but more like, what do you call it? Alright, yeah, this is how it works. So, let me head back to vertex mode. So, as you can see, this is the entire thing. So now what we want is only this mine, only the top part. So we're just gonna do that by, we'll just select this part. And as you can see, it's over here, it's over here, it's a little bit over here. So now what we're gonna do is just, let me do this and try to select at least most of it. So as you can see, these are the different areas which we need to include, except for this part, which is over here. So this, basically, as I said, it's the curved areas, the areas with a bunch of curves. This area, this, and this. Alright, so you probably didn't understand what I was saying for a second, but basically, this is our UV map, and we'll have to export it and edit it in something like GIMP. So I am going to be editing in GIMP, and I'll be showing you how to do that. So first off, we'll go to UVs, export UV layout, and I'll just call it mine tutorial, put it in my documents folder, export it. And secondly, we need to export our object itself. We'll go back to object mode. We can move this aside. Hit export in FBX file format. That's for Unreal Engine. So we'll do that. Once again, mine tutorial in the documents folder. Just do it however you want, but this is... Alright, so now we'll just switch over to GIMP and I'll explain what the next part of this is. Alright, so here's our... I've opened it into image editing software. One of my choices is GIMP. So first off, I'll just make it fit to the window. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be taking those parts, which I mentioned before, these four, and I'm going to be just painting them red, essentially. So first I'll do rectangle select. I'll do each of them one by one because it just makes life easier. So, yeah, okay, so what we're going to do is we'll take this and actually a little bit of better. Yeah, actually this is fine. Sorry. Okay. So now I'll take this and what I'll do is first I'll open my toolbox. I don't know if you can see that, and I'll switch to my I'm switching to my bucket tool, and I'm making sure I'm saying fill whole selection, not fill similar colors. And I just click here and it's there. So it actually had to be red, my bad. So there we go, red. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'll just select the rest of them. I'll do this one by one just to make life easier, as I said before. Second. Oh, okay, sorry. So I have to select everything, and then I have to select this part. It was weird. Okay, so I'll do this for all of them. These two I can just select by themselves. And it's okay to select like outside the lines as long as it's not overlapping with any of the other sections. And also you might not get a UV map just like this, but as I told you, you should be able to identify which parts you need to make red. Alright, so we have this, and once again, we'll fill this in. And for the final one, once again, we'll fill it in. Alright. So, everything else we need to fill in blue, so that's exactly what we'll do. Wow, a rhymer. Yeah. Make sure it's pure blue. You can't, and pure red. You can't have like shades of red or anything. Alright, so now, once again, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take by color select, and I'll be selecting all the red parts, which should make life easier. Then hitting Control I, which will invert the selection, so it's selecting everything that's not red. And then again, I go back to my bucket tool and I fill it in. There we go. So once again, export this. I'll just export it as mine tutorial.png UE4. Oh, there we go. Exported. Just whatever. So yeah, I'll just open up Unreal Engine and then we'll get to it. Okay, so here we go. This is just a basic third-person template, which you can just do by clicking New Project and hitting third-person template, naming it, and setting up your project. Simple as that. So first off, I'm going to make a new folder, which I'm going to name, say, mine. Alright, so under this, I'll make another one, which is mesh, flat, and, okay, mesh, and textures, which once again I'll open. So now I'll just go ahead and I'll import this part, the documents, and should be here somewhere. Yeah, mine tutorial, both of these, and the actual, you need the edited form. You don't need your UVs. So we'll go ahead and do this. This part, you can pretty much ignore everything. just click import all. It'll bring this up. You don't really need it. So now, as you can see, we have our mine over here, right? So it looks fine. Nothing too bad. Nothing too fancy either. So yeah, okay. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna make a texture out of it. I'll just keep it out there so we can easily see what's going on. So now if I put this in the texture material, what? Texture material? Sorry, I have to create a material out of it, then plug this into that, and give it a second to compile the shaders. Yeah, and as you can see, this part is red, this part is blue. Now obviously we don't want our mine looking like a United States of America or something, so we'll change this, don't worry. Alright, so now what we're gonna do, but that just proves that you've done the UV thing correctly. So what we're gonna do is we'll put this to the side, and basically what we want to do is we want to replace the blue part with something, the red part with something. So for example, we might want to replace the blue part with I don't know, let's say some sort of stone, and the red part with, we'll just keep it red for now because I don't want to do anything too fancy. Alright, so what did I do there? Okay. Alright, so we have this over here, and we'll go ahead and, by the way, you need to have started content enabled to get these textures. So we'll go ahead, go to textures, and we will bring in, let's see, we'll take something simple, rock basalt, basalt, whatever it is, and we'll bring in the normal map as well. I'll explain what we do with that later. So for now, we'll just move this out of the way. So, okay, so now we have this, and what we're gonna do is, you can make a linear interpolate mode by holding L and clicking, and we have this. In the A section, we'll put this over here. In the B, we'll put our texture. In the alpha will be this, the blue, the texture, the blue part of it, because you see where I'm going. Basically, where there is blue, it's gonna replace A with B, and where there isn't blue, it's not gonna do that. So now if we just wait for a second, as you can see, it's done that. Obviously, this looks a bit weird, but you'll see. I'm pretty sure you understand how it is. Okay, so I'll keep this over here. Alright. And what we'll do now is I'll add a second normal map of something like really flat, just solely so that, because we need a second normal map in that, otherwise it won't, what do you call this? Otherwise you can't really mix it. So I'll take something which I can see has very little variation. Something like poured concrete. Or, yeah, poured concrete looks like the best. So we'll keep that in there. So now what we're doing is we're gonna take the blue part again, and this is for the normal maps this time. Plug B into this, and plug A into this. And alpha, once again, we'll plug it into this, and put it into the normal map. So now if we wait a second for this to, as you can see, yeah, it looks a bit much better now. So it's, yeah, pretty good. So now also what I want is, I want this part to be less rough than this part, right? So how I'm going to do that is I'll take one more linear interpolate node, but this time I'll plug the alpha into the blue section. So basically what I'm going to do here is constant B is 1, but alpha will be something like 0.5 because I don't want the red area to be completely smooth. So we'll plug it in like this, and just wait a second. And as you can see, there we go. Looks, as you can see, the red area is much more shiny than the rock. Okay, I'll put it in like this because it might be a bit easier to see. Yeah, so there we go. Okay, so maybe we'll plug the same thing into metallic. Well, let's just see how that looks. Yeah, not bad, right? Okay, so now the last thing we want to do is the second last thing we want to do is we want to take this we want to make the red areas glow. So how we're gonna do that is, all right, there's actually a couple things we want to do. I'm not gonna just let me just move some of the stuff out of the way. Okay. Okay, that's a bit far, but see, better to make stuff. Yeah, so now it's a bit more comprehensible. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take color. For now, I'll set it to red. And second. Hello. Oh yeah. Oops. All right. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take the red output this time. So it's replacing all of the areas which are red with red. So that might seem a bit weird, but later on it'll become clearer. Yeah. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna plug this into the red output and this, because I don't want any emission where there is no red, because I don't want the blue area to be emitting. So this should work. Sometimes it doesn't. I don't know, maybe it'll be a bit weird, but yeah, as you can see, it works. It's a bit hard to tell, but if I said something like a sphere, you might be able to tell a bit better. Yeah, as you can see, it's glowing. So now what we can do is we can take this, if we change the color. Just wait for it to compile and all that stuff. You can see the color changes. However, you can still see a bit of red in there. So now I'm gonna fix that part. Once again, I'm gonna make another lerp node. This time, plug the output of the previous lerp node into this. The second output will be this, and the alpha will be red this time. And we'll plug that into base color. As you can see there, now it actually changes. Okay, so for now, I'll just set this back to red. And just wait a second. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so now we've pretty much finished our material. I don't think there's really anything else we're gonna want to do. But now, let's say we might want to change the color and stuff like that for various different things. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this and we're gonna say convert to parameter, and we'll just set this to like color. Simple. And we'll change this also to a parameter, which we'll probably set to something like base texture. Alright, and finally we'll set this to a parameter. And this again we'll call base texture normal. Alright, so now if I hit apply and get rid of this, wait for the shaders to compile. As you can see, this works. Of course, this looks kind of weird, but the way we can fix this is actually, just a second, let me check something. I just want to make sure that this way it would actually work. So let me see if I can just get rid of it. Wait, which one is it? Yeah, this one. Let me see if that actually works, or if it's just gonna... Yeah, so now it's completely flat, which is fine because it's light and we're not gonna really have to worry about the flatness all that much. So now as you can see, it's glowing, pretty simple. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a material instance out of this, and I'll apply this instead. So now if I open this, only these parameters are shown. So if I tick this and I change the color, as you can see, the color is changing like on reaction. So let's say I might want it to be blue for some reason, or green, or even just white. You know what? Whatever. Let's try white. And of course we can. Oops. Of course, we can also change stuff like the texture. Like if we wanted for some reason for it to be Perlin noise, we could. For now, I'll just leave it at basalt. Ugh. Okay. Alright. So, we have that. And now what we're going to do is we're going to make a blueprint. And we're going to make an actor. This is the actual mine, how it's going to work. Mine BP. And if we double click this, right now it doesn't have anything in it, obviously. So what we're going to do is, first off, we're going to... Okay, so before this, if we add this directly, it's not going to have this texture on it. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the default texture to this. That way, no matter what, it'll always have this texture. So, yeah, that's good. Alright, so now we are just going to drag this over here. As you can see, that's a bit too big. So, if we want, we can just set this to something like 0.5. Oh, oops. Let me lock this and then set it to 0.5 so it changes all three. Alright, so now I'll click on default scene root again and make something called a box collision. And I'll adjust this so it encompasses our entire mine. Let me untake this time. 2 and 2. And as you can see, that seems good enough, alright? Alright, so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna set it so that when you collide with this box, it'll make an explosion, and then it will make the mine disappear, and it can only do that once. Alright, so I'll do this in steps, and it might seem a bit weird the way I'm doing it, but as you see later, it'll be a bit easier to understand. So what we're going to do is we're going to take on component begin overlap, which should be pretty self-explanatory, and then we're going to make an emitter, which is, we can just type in particle, and you should see, let me see if it's over here. Spawn emitter attached. So we'll make that, connect this up, and connect this up to the overlap component, which means the box. And so the emitter template, we're going to set it to explosion. So the reason we're setting it to that is because explosion is default in Unreal Engine. So, and now we'll also make an explosion sound 2D. So play sound 2D. Once again, we'll connect that, and we'll make it to explosion 1, because why not? And then we'll wait for very little time, and then we'll get rid of the emitter. So once again, we'll say destroy component, and they give you some stuff like this, so you have to select one of these. But now we can just get rid of the box part, and we'll connect it to this emitter return value, like this over here. So now, yeah, this is fine at the moment. And after that, what we'll do is we'll set it up so it destroys this mine tutorial. So once again, destroy component, mine tutorial. And yeah, we have that. So now if we were to compile it, and yeah, let's get rid of this, and we'll drag this into the world. And now if we hit play and we run onto it, as you can see, it disappears. But the problem is, if we run into the same area again, the explosion keeps occurring, right? And it says there's errors, which is just that you can't delete something which is already deleted. So what we're going to do is we're going to, let me move all of this a bit to the side. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable, a Boolean variable, and we'll name it mine destroyed, ? Alright, so now we'll create a branch node, which is just holding B and clicking. And if we zoom in a bit, connect this over here, and we'll connect false to this part. And put this, so if the mine is not destroyed, we'll do all of the stuff, which is obviously fine. So then after all of this is done, what we're going to do is we're going to set it to mine destroyed, because obviously it's already destroyed. So there we go. And before we finish this up, what we need to do is when the game begins, we need to set it to not destroyed, obviously, because otherwise it might save the values through different play sessions. So now if you see this, blows up once, and then it doesn't do anything for the remaining times you do this. Alright, so obviously you can mess with the timings a bit. For example, I might want to do something like move this over here, and then this over here, and that looks a bit weird, but basically this, and get rid of this. It's basically just moving this back here. So now maybe if I play it, it might actually look a bit more realistic. So yeah, as you can see, that looks a bit better. And of course, if you want the player to die upon, if you want the player to die upon hitting the mine, you can set something like we'll delay it for a second or a little bit, so the player can actually understand what happened. And then we can do something. We can just say quit game, and yeah, that's it. So now if we play and we run on top of the mine, we quit out. Alright, so, but for me, I'm not going to put that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a bit of smoke afterwards, so we know there was a mine there. So we type in particle, if I can spell, and once again, spawn emitter attached. Connect this here. Again, there's already a smoke thing over here. So then, all the way back here, over here, we take this, move it all the way here, and attach the component, and we're done. So just for a final playtest, this is how it's gonna work. I'll destroy, then as you can see, smoke starts forming, which is, yeah. So that is all we want to do. We made a mine, we made the UVs, and then now we brought it into Unreal Engine and set up the blueprint for it to work. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully I can see you next time. If you have any comments, if you have any questions, please ask them in the comments below. And of course, if you like the video and you want to see another one of these, be sure to subscribe. Thank you.